Master Shinran's hymn on the Contemplation Sutra on infinite life. The karmic events that led Shakyamuni Buddha to preach the Contemplation Sutra on infinite life is vividly told in the Nirvana Sutra and related by Master Shinran in his wonderful exposition, the Kyo Gyo Shin Sho. I reflect within myself, the universal vow difficult to fathom is indeed a great vessel bearing us across the ocean difficult to cross. The unhindered light is the sun of wisdom dispersing the darkness of our ignorance. Thus it is that, when conditions for the teaching of birth in the Pure Land had matured, Tathagata provoked Ajatasattu to commit grave crimes. And when the opportunity arose for explaining the pure act by which birth is settled, Shakyamuni led Vaidehi to select the land of peace. In their selfless love, these incarnated ones, Tathagata, Ajatasattu, Vaidehi, all aspired to save the multitudes of beings from pain and affliction, and in his compassion, Shakyamuni, the great hero, sought indeed to bless those committing the 5 grave offenses, those slandering the Dharma, and those lacking the seed of Buddhahood. We know, therefore, that the auspicious name embodying the perfectly fulfilled supreme virtues is true wisdom that transforms our evil into virtue, and that the diamond-like Shinran, so difficult to accept, is true reality that sweeps away doubt and brings us to attainment of enlightenment. The story of Ajatasattu, the unborn enemy, as poignantly told in the Nirvana Sutra, is an excellent example and true story, about how an ordinary foolish person, bamboo, badly overwhelmed by blind, evil passions, can still be saved by great compassion. Having committed the gravest, despicable crimes, Prince Ajatasattu later realized how evil he was, and considered himself to be one who lacked the seed of salvation, a person without any hope of salvation, and was certainly condemned to the deepest hell. Prince Ajatasattu was the beloved son of King Bimbisara of the country of Magadha in northern India about 2,600 years ago. Under the instigation of Tathagata, a rebellious senior disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha, he seized the throne and mercilessly starved his blameless father to death in prison. If not for the intervention of his compassionate uncle Jivaka, a true disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha, and the other senior ministers in Bimbisara's court, Chandraprabha and Varsakara, he would have also killed his own mother Queen Vaidehi, for smuggling food to sustain the imprisoned Bimbisara. The extreme pain and unimaginable suffering experienced by Vaidehi brought her to implore the Buddha, to show her a place throughout the entire universe and trillion world systems, that was completely free from the dreadful agonies of this mortal world. That tragic incident in this story of Ajatasattu presented the ripening of an excellent karmic opportunity for Shakyamuni Buddha to reveal and teach about Amida Buddha and his pure land of peace and happiness. This pure land was the indisputable choice selected by a painfully distraught Vaidehi, from among the billions of pure lands showed to her by the Buddha, through his transcendental power. In spite of the despicable, evil acts, apparently committed by Tathagata and Ajatasattu, Master Shinran venerates them as incarnated sages, for without them, the Contemplation Sutra on infinite life would never have been preached by Shakyamuni Buddha. This sutra was clearly taught by the Buddha to Vaidehi and other lay followers, in the presence of his accomplished disciples such as Ananda, Mangalayana, and Purna. It implicitly exhorts all ordinary foolish persons, like ourselves, to abandon all meditative and non-meditative practices, which they are definitely incapable to perform, and to single-mindedly entrust themselves to Amida Buddha and his primal vow, for their assured freedom from samsara. 9 Hymns on the Contemplation Sutra composed by Master Shinran. Shakyamuni Buddha, out of vast benevolence, instructed Queen Vaidehi, leading her to select, from among all the lands manifested in the pedestal of light, Amida's world of happiness. King Bimbisara put the ascetic to death without waiting for the time of his rebirth as determined by past conditions, and in recompense for this act of murder, was imprisoned in a cell 7 walls thick. King Ajatasattu shouted, in a fit of rage, "My own mother betrays me!" and heinously To strike her down, he drew his sword against her. Rage means to be angry in one's expression, to be angry in one's heart. Jivaka and Kandaprabha earnestly admonished the king, saying such acts were those of an outcast, and that they could not remain in the castle should he persist. Thus they tried to quell his lawless impulses. The minister Jivaka, with hand on his sword, stepped backward and began to take his leave. Ajatasattu was thus made to discard his sword, but he confined Vaidehi within the palace. Amida and Shakyamuni, employing compassionate means, and Ananda, Mangalayana, Purna, Vaidehi, Devdatta, King Ajatasattu, Bimbisara, Jivaka, Kandaprabha, Varsakara, and others. All of them great sages by various means, brought the most foolish and lowest of evil people to enter the vow that does not neglect people of grave offenses and transgressions. Most foolish and lowest, we who have sunk into the bottom of the great sea. Grave offenses and transgressions, the 5 grave offenses and the 10 transgressions. Since conditions for the Pure Land teaching had matured, Shakyamuni and Vaidehi, manifesting compassionate means, led the minister Varsakara to bear witness and King Ajatasattu to commit grave offenses. Let us overturn the 3 minds of self-power, whether meditative or non-meditative, which vary with each practicer. Let us aspire to enter into Shinran that arises from Amida's benefiting of others. Shinran, entrusting faith, the true and real Shinran of the Primal Vow. Here ends Master Shinran's hymn on the Contemplation Sutra. Abandoning all self-power, meditative and non-meditative practices, we simply entrust our karmic destiny entirely to Amida Buddha and the natural working of his primal vow. Let us single-heartedly recite his auspicious name. Namo Amida Butsu. Thus, with the merit transference from Amida Buddha for going forth, our birth in the land of happiness is absolutely assured, while we are still living out this treacherous existence. We know without any doubt that this is our last life as deluded beings in painful samsara. The Buddha's infinite merits and virtues are bestowed equally on all beings. May all accept Amida's gift of Shinran and obtain birth in his land of peace and bliss. Clearly and distinctly, we have now heard the call of boundless compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.